She's out of here. I married my wife 4 years ago. It was my first marriage and her second. We seemed to have had a good relationship and I thought all was well. But a little over 3 weeks ago I discovered she was having a full-blown physical affair with a contractor who had worked on our house. When I followed her to his apartment and confronted them together, she made a huge scene and she and him both X me together. I managed to X the crap out of him, but I ended up X her too and giving her a bloody nose. The neighbors called the cops on me and the other guy were both taken in. I made my own bail that same night. When I got home around 3 a.m. my wife was not there. She was probably at her shady girlfriend's house crying on her shoulder. I told my stepson what had happened. Then I packed my personal belongings and valuables up in my truck and I left that same morning. I immediately went to the bank and pulled out about $10K from an account we share. Then I drove away and have not been back home since. I am currently staying with a buddy at his place in a little unknown town about 2 states away. He has gotten me a job driving for his trucking company and I have no intention of going back to my cheating wife. Of course, she has been texting me non-stop since that night, claiming she wants me back, that she has broken up with her lover, and apologizing for X me along with her boyfriend. She claims she was only trying to keep me from hurting him because I am much stronger and bigger than him, but it is a lie. She X me because she was mad at me for breaking up her affair, and because she has a vicious temper. Her son is pissed at her too and he went and told all her family what she had done. He called me the other day to tell me she had kicked him out of the house after she found out he outed her to the in-laws. Everyone is texting me and calling me and wondering where I am. I have told no one where I am at and now that I have a job here, I feel I can start over. My question is, can I divorce my wife from the state I am currently living in, which has much more fairer divorce laws than the state my wife is in? Or do I have to file in the state where she lives? I'm afraid if I try to divorce her back in her state, she will be able to get more from me than she deserves. I also want to know from all of you if I should go back and confront my wife. My buddy has told me I can stay as long as I need and until I get a place here. But he also says I should not run from my problems. I don't think I'm running from my problems. From where I am at, I am able to think a lot clearer than I would if I was back there. Also, I'm afraid I would let her talk me into taking her back, which I promised myself I would never do. She knew that cheating was the one thing that would break us up for sure. Well, she did it and now she can choke on it. But I wanted to know what you all think. And some might ask what happened to her first marriage. My wife says her ex used to X her and she ran from him and divorced him back around 2005. I met her in 2013 and we dated about a year before I let her talk me into marrying her. Looking back, a lot of what she told me about her first marriage didn't add up. My gut told me not to marry her. I should have never done it. I never met the ex and never thought to ask the in-laws if what she told me about him was true. They never talk about him, so I figured he was dead to them. I asked my stepson if she cheated on his dad and he says not that he ever knew. So, I don't know if she ever did this before. I have to appear the end of July for my court date. I think I'll go see a lawyer there and wrap up all my business at once. I just want to get this over with and get on with my life. I have to appear in court at the end of July. So, I have to go back anyways. I was the one who initiated the fight, so I will stand up and take my punishment like a man. They only charged me with 1 count of X him. I guess my wife told them some story because I wasn't charged for X her. I guess I owe her that much. My wife and I don't have anything to split. There is no alimony in her state that I know of. The house is a rental. I have never had a pot to piss in. I don't make much as a truck driver, and my wife has bounced from job to job. We only have about $23K in a money market account, and that came from a big bonus I made on a driving job I did in Alaska 3 years ago. I took less than half of that when I left her. She can have the rest. I don't want it. Well, I did get one piece of revenge. I took our dog with me. My wife loves that dog. It's killing her that I have him. Probably over half the texts she sends me are asking how the dog is doing. One damn thing is for sure, she will never see him again. I know my wife was pretty wild in her younger days, and yes, she went through a phase with cocaine. But as far as doing hard meds during our marriage, no, I never noticed anything suspicious. To be honest, I am the one who tends to drink and party too much. My wife has always been pretty temperate. But this experience has proven to me that anything is possible. If she was strung out when she attacked me, then that would go a long way and explain why she turned coat on me. I just got this string of emails from my wife. I went ahead and engaged her a little for the first time since I left. Check out her thought process. Why haven't you been answering? I know you are getting my messages. Talk to me, please. I can't believe you are going to throw away our marriage because I ducked up. I told you I'm sorry and I mean it. How many times do I have to say it? Will you just let me know you are okay? Me, I'm okay. Funny you are worried about my well-being now? You did not seem worried when you and your boyfriend ganged up on me. I'm glad you are okay. And that is not what happened and you know it. I was trying to keep you from hurting him and I didn't want you to go to behind bars. You completely overreacted. Hello, where did you go? Me, how am I supposed to react when I find out my wife has been sleeping with another man and then see her kissing him in a parking lot? How would you react if you saw me kissing another woman and knew I had been sleeping with her? What do you want me to say to you, OP? How do I make this right? I met him and we got carried away. I never meant for any of this to happen. It was a mistake and I'm sorry. Please come home so we can work this out. I'm not seeing him anymore. I won't ever see him again, I promise. I love you and I want things to be the way they were before. Hello? Why do you keep leaving? Where did you go? Me, things can't be the way they were ever again. Obviously, things were not as good as I thought because you went outside our marriage and had slept with a piece of crap like him. How can I ever be around you knowing you defiled yourself with that filth? And as for what happened in that parking lot, I was there. You jumped me and tried to rip me apart. I have the scratches on my face to prove it. How am I supposed to ever trust your cheating BS again? You are not the woman I thought you were. What you did was a choice and not a mistake. You can think what you want, and that is not the way it happened and you know it. You had no right to come there and try to manhandle me. Yes, I shouldn't have cheated on you. That was wrong and I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. But it was just as wrong for you to ex a man who is smaller and weaker than you. And for what it is worth, I only slept with him that day before you came over there. And it wasn't even that good. You are much better than him. Me? Oh, that just makes me feel so much better. How sensitive of you to only slept with him once. No way you did it once. You can't keep from lying, can you? Whatever, think what you want. Me, you know what? Save your apologies for someone who gives a crap. I want a divorce, and I don't want to drag this out. You take your things and I'll take my things, we'll let the lease on the house run out and we'll go our separate ways. I can get a mediator to draw up a divorce agreement for way cheaper than a lawyer can. I'll pay all the fees. All you have to do is sign the agreement. I'll make it easy for you. Then once we are legally separated, you can go out and have fun with all the bikers and weird guys you want. Do whatever you want, OP, I'm through. That is the way it has been going back and forth. She continues to defend her other man. No remorse. Nothing. Nice, huh? Update. This whole thing is a nightmare. The thing is, if you met my wife, she comes across as a very well-spoken, clean-cut, white bread type of presentable lady. There is nothing outwardly scuzzy about her. She dresses neatly and conservatively, isn't festooned with tattoos and piercings, and she's in very good shape and looks much younger than her 43 years. I can't wrap my head around her actually dating and sleeping with this guy who looks like a cast member from Sons of Anarchy. I just don't get it. I'm not a bad guy. I work hard, never done anything wrong. I'm big but not fat. I don't think I look bad for a 45-year-old. I try to dress halfway neatly. I help out around the house, help cook, do all the handyman stuff and car repairs that a blue-collar guy is supposed to do. I always thought if you took care of your woman, treated her right, helped out, and told her I loved her enough that I was doing what a husband was supposed to do. I'm not a particularly nice guy either. I was a Marine. I work in trucking and construction. I've had lots of women in my time and I have my share of sordid tales. I can handle myself and I don't back down from a fight. I thought I was a good husband. I just don't get it. I'll be filing in her state. I just talked to a lawyer yesterday and she is putting me in touch with a paralegal who does mediation. Oh yeah, I get 20 texts a day from her. She's pissed again because I'm not responding. I'm going fully dark now. I may call Sprint and have her number blocked. Oh absolutely, her boyfriend is the victim. Poor, tough man got his back handed to him for messing another man's wife. And how did I catch them? Used her phone to call my mom and the text messages showed up on the screen with "Hey baby" or some such. I got into her texts and read through about 4 days of filth. I actually had to go in the backyard and throw up. Anyway, they talked about wanting to see each other again but had to wait until her idiot husband was gone out of town on a driving job. So next day I lie to her and tell her I'll be gone a couple of days running a trailer somewhere. I left that morning but came back a while later and sure as crap she got in her car all dolled up, and I followed her from a distance to his apartment. Saw her walk in. I went down the street to a diner and waited there for about an hour, then I texted her and told her I was home and that the driving job was canceled and where was she? She said she would be home in 30 minutes. I waited about 5 minutes, got back in my truck and drove back to the apartments and parked where I was just down the street but could see her car. When they came walking out together, they started kissing by her car and that's when I drove in and surprised them. She threw away a good marriage and a guy who loved her for some random guy. I'll never understand it. Not being able to understand it is worse than these images going through my head. I feel like my head is going to explode. I've thought back and honestly, up until I discovered the affair, I saw nothing. Either this was a whirlwind affair and it happened suddenly, or it has been going on a while and she is just a really good actress. I'm probably not going to ever know the details of the affair because she would probably just lie if I asked her. I really thought we had a good marriage. We argued like any couple over mundane things, but we always made up. We had way more good times together than bad. She was my best friend, I thought. We went on a date every week, and I always tried my best to please her in bed. If she was dissatisfied with me, why didn't she ever just come out and tell me so? She owed me the benefit of the doubt. I could have fixed whatever I was doing wrong. I don't want her losing it and spitefully telling me about all the guys she has been messing with behind my back. I spent a lot of time out on the road last year, so she has had lots of opportunity. Especially when my stepson was gone for school. My trust in her is shot to hell forever, and my love is dying by the minute. Get this, last night she started sending me pics of herself and is back to begging me to come home. What the hell? I feel like Dorothy, wondering when the flying monkeys are going to come bursting through my window. Comments. You need to block her calls and texts. Your original plan of going completely dark is the one you need to stick with. I think you are doing very well. You have made all the right moves so far, except for that lapse yesterday when you engaged her. There is something fundamentally broken about your wife. Yes, there is a good possibility this is not her first time cheating. I would surmise that infidelity may have played a role in the dissolution of her first marriage. She may be a cold, cool, calculating player who gets her kicks and her ego fed by seducing and having fun with lots of men, and keeping a husband on the side to pay bills. It is a distinct possibility, and pretty sure you must divorce in the state you were married. OP responds, well, I got off the phone with my lawyer in the other state. She will have her paralegal who is a mediator get with me to draw up a divorce agreement. This lawyer will also represent me in the misdemeanor case. After I told her the whole story, she is pretty sure that I won't get more than probation and a fine. One remark that she made in a text she sent me last week was something to the effect of, I don't understand why you got so violent. It was only a one-time thing. That guy means nothing to me. So, does that mean any guy she sleeps with means nothing to her? I slept with her. Do I mean nothing to her? It was only a fun time. Guess that was supposed to make me feel better. I had a long phone talk with my stepson this morning about this very thing. He is now sleeping on a couch at his friend's apartment because he doesn't want to go home and deal with his mother's bull crap. He has only been living with us during summer break for the last couple of years, but I asked him if during those times prior to graduating and during summers with us if he had ever thought his mom might be stepping out on me. He told me to his knowledge never. He is just as shocked and confused about what his mom did as I am. He is also severely pissed off at his mom. He told me I was the best thing that ever happened to her and he cannot believe she threw the marriage away for a piece of crap like the other man. He is a great kid and I hate to see him have to deal with all of this while trying to negotiate college. So, at this point I don't have any proof she has ever cheated on me before. But from everyone's posts I am not discounting the possibility. It just sucks that I had to find out this way. I would rather she had just told me a year ago she wasn't happy and we could have divorced and gone our separate ways. Yes, it would have hurt, but not like this. And last night I went to a 4th of July barbecue with my buddy and there were 2 or 3 single women in their late 30s who were chatting me up and one even gave me her phone number. So, when I am ready to date eventually there will be no shortage of available ladies here in this town I'm living in. I really like this town. I'm not crazy about the job I have but I'm not complaining. Cement truck driving is not my cup of tea, but there is an opening for a school district bus driver here. I have a T, P, and an H endorsement so it should be no problem to pass the state test here and get a P endorsement too to haul kids. I'm heartbroken over my wife, but I see myself making a nice future here. A fresh start. She just sent me an angry text about how she is going to pay the bills, how is she going to make rent, and on and on. I haven't answered any of them since that conversation I posted a few days ago. I'm going to call the landlord Monday and tell him the situation and see if I can get out of the lease. I need to block her. I was going to do it last week but never got around to it. I barely know the piece of crap, and I plan to tell my landlord his contractor is the reason he's losing a renter. I have no problem hitting this guy where he hurts, and I'm leaving her more than half the money. I earned that money driving a gravel truck in Alaska in the winter. That was hard-earned cash. The woman can choke on it. Hopefully she'll prepay the rent so my landlord doesn't get stiffed. Then she can move her tattoo stud in and he can watch my big screen and sleep on my lazy boy. Just got off the phone with my stepson. He went over to the house to pick up the rest of his clothes and he said the minute he walked in the door his mother lit into him. She was demanding he tell her where I was and was threatening him. He told her he did not know where I was, which is true, and said he wouldn't tell her even if he did. So, I guess she kicked him out for good. Poor kid. Luckily, he has a good friend who has taken him in and they are going halves on an apartment. He says the wife looks awful and she acts like she has been drinking or did something worse. I'm beginning to think more and more that she is on something. Talked to the landlord and gave him the short version of what happened. He's been thinking of firing the OM for a while because he's not good at what he does. He is just cheap. Well, he says the guy is gone as of tomorrow. So at least I have satisfaction of knowing I got the guy canned from his contract. Bad news is I can't get out of the lease unless he finds a new renter. He says I should wait and see if the wife can pay the rent. If she can't then he will start the eviction process. He will work with me given it was his contractor who screwed things up. Almost forgot, I have a Skype meeting set up with paralegal who is going to draw up the divorce agreement next Monday. I'm actually excited. She emailed me a bunch of forms I have to fill out. A bunch. Since I don't sleep anymore, I spent most of last night filling out the divorce agreement forms. It is a weird feeling to be doing so. Stepson called me just a few minutes ago and said his mom told him to come and move all of his belongings out. She's mad at me, so she is taking it out on him. I arranged for a friend of mine there who owns a storage unit to let him stow his stuff there. Poor kid. I feel bad for leaving him alone to deal with her crap. Small update. I got a line on my own place to live. Talked to my boss last night and he has a single wide trailer out on the back of his property that he lived in while he was building his house. It has electric, water and its own septic. He says if I do work on it and fix it up, I can live there rent-free for a few months while he goes down to Mexico to run a mine. He and his wife lease down there. So, while they are gone, I would basically be the caretaker of his little ranch. I'm very excited. This would give me the opportunity to save up money. Spoke to my stepson this morning. I guess his mom has calmed down a bit and they are talking. Now she wants him to move back in. She apologized to him, so I guess he will be moving back. I told him to do what he could to get along with her and to concentrate on saving money for college. I also thanked him for sticking up for me in regard to his mom and her family, but that he needed to concentrate on himself now and his schooling and let me fight my own battles. I have about 90% of the paperwork for the divorce agreement ready, and I am planning to break the silence and call my wife and let her know that the agreement would be drafted next week and will be coming her way for signature. I know most of you will say I should stay dark and let the lawyer handle it, but I know how my wife operates. And if I am going to try to get her to agree to this, then I need to talk to her in person. I only plan on calling her. In her state, the mediation process does away with her having to be formally served, so my law firm will just mail her the paperwork. What I want to do is clear the path and let her know beforehand that it is coming and not to freak out on me. If she wants a regular courtroom divorce, I will give her one, but I don't think she will want to do that. If she stays in the rental house, she will be making barely enough to pay the rent and utilities. She won't have the money to hire a lawyer of her own. And given the fact that we have no real assets other than our old crappy vehicles, she would be stupid to want to do a divorce by any other means than mediation. My landlord is a good guy and I have never been late on a payment during the 2.5 years I have rented from him. He has made it clear he will work with me. If he can find a renter, then he will let me out of the lease. The catch being the wife would need to move out quickly. She has a boatload of personal belongings and detritus saved up from over the years that she won't get rid of, so moving her might be a challenge. I suspect the wife will use the $13,000 to pay the rent. It should cover about 10 months' worth. She likes that house and won't want to lose it. I checked the account and noted she has not taken anything out. Shocker. So when I call her next week, I might ask her what her intentions are about the house. If she wants to stay, I'll tell her she needs to use the money. If not, then I need to let the landlord know so he can start advertising. Well, for a quick update, I called the landlord and talked about a few things. He mentioned, without my asking, that he had not fired the other man yet because the piece of crap is still behind bars. Lol. My stepson called late last night and is back living at home. He says my wife is a wreck and is barely speaking to him. I will be moving to my new trailer tomorrow. There is no internet service out there and cell signal is weak, so I may only be able to check in maybe once or twice a week. I'll stop by the local fast food and use their internet to post updates. Other than that, there is nothing new to report. Divorce paperwork is filled out and I faxed it to the paralegal yesterday. I have a telephone meeting with her on Monday to go over the details and then she will draft up the agreement and mail it to my wife. I plan to call my wife after Monday sometime and let her know it's on its way. I'm sure that will be a dramatic phone call and I'll let you know how it goes. Just a quick update since last week. I had a good long phone call with my mediator this morning. We went through all the paperwork I sent her and she filled in the blanks and we are good to go. She should have the divorce agreement drafted and sent out by this Friday the 19th. She will send it certified mail to prove my WW received it. Because of that, I decided not to call my WW and tell her it is coming. She will have to sign for it at the post office, and I thought, why should I give her any kind of heads up or advantage over me? I want to keep the advantage on my side. She can hire a lawyer after she gets it. My move out to my new place is complete and I could not be in better shape. It is a 12 by 45 mobile home out behind my boss's house, out at his little ranch in the country. It is an older model trailer, but it is in very good condition. My boss lived in it when he was building his house, and then he refurbished it about 8 years ago for his mother-in-law to stay in when she visited. All the carpet and paint and everything inside is still fresh and nearly new. The trailer sits under some cottonwood trees and there is a pond about 50 yards away behind it. All sorts of deer and other critters come around to visit every morning. The trailer also has a little fenced yard behind it for my dog. I could not ask for better. My stepson is doing okay, but he is trying to arrange for his own place. We spoke a couple of times over the weekend and he says that the WW disappeared overnight on Saturday and did not come back home until about 7 o'clock yesterday evening. She wouldn't tell him where she went, so I assumed she was out bar hopping with her girlfriends and probably crashed out drunk at one of their houses. Or she was with the OM. I cannot say I feel better about my situation. The last few days have been a dark hell actually. I try to stay upbeat but I feel like I'm dying inside. I don't eat much, I'm probably drinking more than I should and sleep is a memory. I miss my wife so bad it physically hurts, and whenever I close my eyes to sleep, I see her having fun with the OM. Talked to my mom yesterday. The wife has been calling her every day, non-stop. She says my wife sounds like she is unhinged. I told my mom to block her calls. I weighed myself at my workplace last night. I've lost 22 pounds in 3 weeks. Is that normal? I don't eat more than 1 meal a day anymore. I know people have all told me I should stay dark, but at some point, I have to talk to her about D. I should probably call her Monday and clear the air. Just a quick check-in before I leave to travel back to the other state for my court appearance. Talked to my WW for the first time yesterday. Mostly silence and her bawling. She did ask me when I was coming back and I told her flatly I was not. She had not received the divorce packet yet, and she tried to persuade me to wait on divorce a few months to see if she could get me to change my mind. She promised if I came back, she would do anything and everything to make it up to me, and that the OM was probably going back behind bars for other things, so he was out of her life for good. She claims that my being gone has shown her how much she needed me. I responded with no way. She wasn't nasty or anything. She just said do what you feel like you need to do. I told her I was going to be in town tomorrow and that I wanted to come by the house and get some more of my belongings. She said she would be gone to work but asked if I could stop by her workplace so she could see me one last time. What do you guys think? Should I go see her? The goal now is to get my WW to sign the divorce agreement. It's a very fair agreement and I told her so yesterday. So we will see how it goes. I have a suspicion she will stonewall me and delay it as much as possible. I just want to be done with the whole thing. I'm not really angry today. I'm just emotionally tired and mentally worn out. Some good things are happening. I am getting more hours at work, and the assistant manager at the company I work for says she might hire me on full time. It all depends on this one driver they have who says he might leave at the end of next week. I also got my temporary permit that will cover me until my residency requirements are complete. I put in my application for the school bus driving job and the lady at the school district says she will call me if they want me to go take an exam. If that happens, she says I am a shoo-in. The bus driving gig would be just up my alley. I'm tired of driving big rigs, and I could probably work a side job along with it. One of the reasons I stayed single for so long was because I was an independent operator. I knew better at the time I was trucking that marriage was out of the question. The money was not good enough to support a wife and kids and I was on the road for weeks at a time. I had a little place that I called home but I never spent any time there. Trucking can be a lonely life. That's why I sold my truck and settled down when I met and married my wife. I don't regret it. The trucking took a toll on my health and frankly I had grown tired of the life. So, over the weekend I was making calls to my WW to find out if she had signed the D agreement or not. I could not get hold of her. Come to find out last night from my stepson that she had disappeared after work last Friday and did not come home until 6 or so yesterday evening. Strung out and looking like a death camp inmate and collapsed into bed and would not tell him where she had been. My stepson says she is losing weight fast. She is not keeping house and he spent all day yesterday cleaning house because she is letting it get filthy. She's a mess. Tried all weekend and this morning but she is ignoring me. I do admit I worry about her. I still love the woman, God help me. My stepson is working on getting into his own place by the end of the month. He's pretty scared that she is going to end up in the gutter. He doesn't know if she is still seeing the OM or not, but she barely talks to him anymore. She just shuts herself up in her room all evening. I knew when I met her that she had gone through problems before, and it angers me that she went through all that hell and cleaned herself up, then she married me. And now for no damn good reason she jumped back into it with the OM. It's just such a waste. Well, it is official. My stepson called me this afternoon. My wife got picked up for possession of X. I feel like I got my guts ripped out. Why do I care? I fell apart a little last night. I looked back through my memory and I guess I should have noticed the signs. The staying out late, the mood swings, the way she would often disappear for hours at a time without telling me. Me being a trusting fool, I never thought to question her. It feels like the whole past year or so has been a sham. Tomorrow is a new day and I will move on. The mind is the hardest hill to capture. But like my grandpa used to say, keep your eyes on the objective. Never stop moving towards it. Run, stoop, crawl on your belly for a mile to get to it if you have to. Man, I wish he was here to kick my rear. I called the police station where my wife's at. She has been charged with 1-count possession for sale of X. Holy duck, that is a class 4 felony in her state. She could go away for 5 years. Stupid ducking woman. Stupid, stupid, stupid. My stepson is a wreck. Just a quick update. I drove down Saturday night and had visitation with my wife on Sunday. I only got to see her for about 15 minutes. I brought the divorce agreement with me and she signed it. So that is done. That was my main reason for going. Not much was said. She sat there in her orange jumpsuit, looking like an old woman I could hardly recognize, tears running down her face. I did not play into her or chastise her. We just sat and didn't say much. She knows she is in deep trouble. I asked her if the ex she was caught with was from the OM and she said no. The OM got her back into using it. She told me she hates herself and hates what she has done. I asked her if it was worth throwing me and her son away for X and she just sat silent and cried more. After a while I got sick of the silence and I told her good luck with her case and then I got up to leave. Then she asked me if she could email me and I told her yes. I gave her my new email and I said I would be there for her to talk to, but I made it clear I was not getting back together with her. Then I left and drove home. And that was that. My stepson is hurting. He's angry, sad, scared. The whole gamut. Saturday night after I got there we stayed up and talked and he said he was thinking about joining the military. I told him he was a man now and could make his own decisions. I wish he would stay in school, but I can tell he is not rushing into decisions. Good news is, I found out that the WW actually paid up 6 months of rent to the landlord. So my stepson at least has a place to live for the next few months. I told him if he needed help with utilities, I would send him money. As to what my WW did with the rest of her money, I have no clue. She probably blew it on crank. While I was at the house, my stepson and I thoroughly searched my WW's room and the rest of the house for anything else left by her. I found a shoebox under her bed, but thank God no X. What really pissed me off was all the lingerie she had in a box in the closet. She never wore that crap for me, and I never saw them before. She must have bought them for her OM. But even then, I hope the court goes easy on my WW, as angry and hurt and devastated as I am. I really don't wish to see her go behind bars. In fact, the thought of it terrifies me. I'm torn between whether or not I want to be there for her through all of this. I'm still mad as hell at her, but as much as I try, I cannot hate her like I wish I could. I no longer want to be her husband. In fact, when I saw her, I was a bit repulsed. She has aged 10 years in the space of a month or so. It is really shocking how X and stress can age someone. On Monday I mailed off the divorce packet to the mediator. So, the D process is on? At least I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm wrestling with doing the email thing. She is only allowed computer access once a week for something like an hour. And even then, the emails are monitored by the guards. Any emails I would get would be emotionless and matter of fact. I want to kind of be kept up to speed on her hearings and what is going on. But I think after she is sentenced, I will be pulling back a lot and I may even cut off all contact at that point. Another crazy thing happening is all these nasty calls and texts from her family. According to them, I am to blame for her being taken by the cops because I left her. Her family are bottom feeders. In many ways, she was the best of them. Calling them trash would be a compliment. I have started blocking their calls and texts one by one. Her mom is being particularly nasty. I told her mom yesterday that the only wrong I ever did her daughter was loving her. My comment. This is part 1 of a 2-part story because it is quite long. Hope you guys are learning something from this story so far. I will try to work on the second part as soon as possible. But I haven't eaten yet and it's almost 2. Please sub and bell to show some support and I will be back with the second part really soon.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. "Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized." Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. "All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason." "What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do." "I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you." "Please." Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, "Yes. That's Nick for you." Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? Alright, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.